Yeah, I chose that because in my years of experience, I've been a management consultant and trainer, a director coach for 30 years, 35 years. And once you get your brain around the difference between work or waste, what I want you to get out of this 20 minutes is a lack of tolerance for waste in your organization. But I think first we need to define those two words, and the rest of the slides will be around elements of that. So this is me with my lockdown haircut and my lockdown beard. I'm getting my haircut today, so I'm really excited about that. And I think I might keep the facial hair. We'll see what goes on. So I've been with gunnercooke for about a year now. I'm a chemist by profession, but I've been a director, an operations director in a law firm. I have a master's degree in African peace and conflict studies, and I bring a lot of that knowledge of conflict management into the workplace because workplaces are full of it. But I'm really interested in helping organizations get better at what they do. So let's get right off of my first one, work or waste. And here's the first title that I want to get your head around. Moving around is not working. I want you to redefine work as that activity that takes place which moves a job forward. Now, the problem is there are lots of things which look exactly like work and they're not. And I want you to start noticing it both in your workplace or if it's appropriate, your client's workplace. So you can just say, there's people there wasting their time. And I'm not saying they're doing it deliberately. It's just the way the environment is set up. It's designed almost to make people not work. So let me give you a couple of examples. Waiting around. The amount of time I see people waiting for somebody to turn up for a meeting, that's not work. Moving, over processing. So I was in a job a couple of months ago where they had 5 steps in a process that could be done in 2, and I will talk to you more about over processing. Redoing work because it's not done properly. If you've ever had to send a letter back to a secretary to say, can you do that again? That first time that that person was writing that letter for you, that wasn't work because ultimately it had to be done again. That was a waste of time. But figuring out how Excel works or PowerPoint, that's not working. I had somebody on a course with me about a week and a half ago. She said she got a new job and she immediately saved hours of work a week, she said, because nobody knew how to use a macro on Excel, and they were inputting things in Excel, which Excel could do for them. That's not work. That is a waste of time. But let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen 2 or 3 people standing around a computer looking for a file that they knew is on the C drive somewhere, but they don't know where it is? That's not working. It's a waste of time, but it takes as much energy as work. It's more frustrating than work. It produces more conflict and aggravation than work, and it doesn't move the job forward. So, and again, the last time I was actually in an office, somebody was walking down the corridor saying, has anyone seen Bill? That's not working. You can't do any work until you've met Bill to decide what it is you're going to do. Looking for a pen, being in an operational plant, factory, and you look somebody walking around and says, hey Jack, what are you doing? He says, oh, I need a screwdriver. And you think, all the time you're looking for that screwdriver, you're not working. You're wasting your time until you get your hands on the screwdriver, and then you can do the job you're supposed to do. But the amount of time I see people wandering around, and you take 2 steps back on your environment, and you look around, you see everybody's moving, and you think everybody's working, and they're not. Muda is a Japanese word for waste, and it's got there in the middle because the Japanese people, organizations who want to get good, understand the value of getting that out of the organization. Stop doing other people's jobs. I've asked this question 40 times in the last couple of months on Zoom, and everybody knows somebody who drops a problem on your desk and says, I can't fix it. And before you know it, you're sitting down doing somebody else's work because they said they can't do it. And it's a lack of accountability. And the reason they do this is because you have given them permission. If the first time they did that, you told them that was unacceptable behavior, they'd very, very soon stop doing it. This is the responsibility ladder. And as people get more and more responsible, they start taking accountability, start doing things until eventually they're starting to fix their own problems and informing their manager. And it is the difference between the lower line where things happen to you or things happen because of you. So this is an element of your leadership that people do not feel it's acceptable to dump problems on your desk. This is the Eisenhower Grid. And if I ask people to stamp where they normally spend their time, it's in the upper urgent box, high importance, high urgency, and for some people, low importance, low urgency. If you're a leader in your organization, you want to be on the bottom right-hand corner, and you need to understand this and work to moving more of your time into the bottom right-hand corner. The big one on this is irrelevant CC emails. I can't see all of you, but just by a nod of your head or a hand in the air, do you waste more time than you should going through emails which you shouldn't need to go through, that you didn't need to be copied or have got no value to you? Yeah, so half of you that I can see are nodding. You've got to try and find a way of eliminating that from your day because it kills productivity. Unimportant meetings is the bond in there, is we've got to understand that we need to have meetings when they're necessary. We've got to get the right people to the meeting. They ought to be tied, they ought to have a proper agenda, and they ought to be really properly managed. And in today's world, we still don't know how to run a meeting. Then we get the high urgent, high customer demands, bosses demands, managing a crisis. And I know sometimes you've got to do that. But if your organization is continually in the upper right-hand corner managing a crisis, something is wrong in your organization. You need to be looking at ways of fixing it. This is where you add the most value. Forward planning, developing yourself and your team, building relationships, building infrastructure, getting goals and direction into your organization. So analyze where you are spending your time, do what you need to do to move it in the right direction. God, this is fast, doing 10 in 20 to give you no time. This is a really big deal. First of all, if you do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten. You've got to build a culture that is focused on improving productivity in your organization. It doesn't happen overnight, and you've got to commit to it. As Drucker says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Culture, by definition, is the way we do things around here. And you have to build a culture that puts improving at the heart of your organization so that people can engage in it, otherwise it won't happen. And for that to happen, you've got to create trust in your organization, because out of trust comes a feeling of safety when we raise issues of conflict in the organization. And if we're happy with conflict because we build trust, then people will feel safe challenging the status quo, and we get better as a result. The Pomodoro, this is a really simple technique, and I've given this to people and they've come back and they said, you know what, it really works. The Pomodoro is that simple tomato-shaped kitchen timer, but is a technique for getting you to do some really good pieces of work. It's helpful and it can be really useful. Simple process. Choose a task you'd like to get done. Set the Pomodoro or whatever for 25 minutes. And then work on that task exclusively until the bell goes. And I mean exclusively. Turn your phone off, don't look at an email, don't accept somebody knocking at your door. Do it solidly for 25 minutes and stop when it rings. Hey presto, you spent an entire interruptionless Pomodoro, 25 minutes on a task. People can really get these things done well, and you don't have to do it on your own. You can sit down with 1, 2 or people, a small team, and say, right, no exceptions, no interruptions, no emails, no phones. We're going to pick this one task and we're going to hammer it for 25 minutes solid, and it's really, really good at improving your productivity. Then take a break, you deserve it. Every 4 Pomodoros, take a longer break, you deserve it. Okay, let me go back to managing your meetings. Honestly, I cannot believe in the 21st century, we still do not know how to do this. First of all, make sure you need one. It's not an alternative to work. This has got to be able to achieve something. So have a clear shared agenda. And by, not many people have an agenda, and the first time you see it is when you turn up in the room and go, oh, that's the agenda. If someone can't give you an agenda, don't turn up. Have a purpose, have a set time, give somebody the leader of that topic, and record in the agenda what the desired outcome of that topic is going to be. Start on time, finish on time. The amount of people who say to me, oh, sorry, I'm late, the last meeting overran, and that's acceptable. How? People need to respect time, and when people don't respect time, we start wasting our time. So control the meeting and focus. And insist that people turn up prepared. Just before I was going to launch, my wife said, have you got a thing on it that says, make sure you invite the right people? I went, no, but I'll mention it. So just make sure the right people attend the meeting. Because the amount of times I've said, oh, we've got this on the agenda, oh, but we didn't invite Jim, so maybe we'll have to have another meeting. This is a tricky one because it takes time and it takes effort. So you really have to get this right. Understanding how processes work in your organization. And there's 3 diagrams there, what you think it is. And it's always an overestimation of how slick and professional your particular operations are. It isn't like that. It's typically what the middle box is like, with loads and loads of different things. I did a process map for an architect's company, and as an example, we said, just figure out how you answer the phone. And they thought it was ridiculously simple until they realized they don't have a process for picking up the phone. And in a private firm like an architect's company, one of the lines in there was the phone stops ringing because nobody could be asked picking the thing up. So work on understanding your processes. They help you uncover waste. They help you to deliver to expectations. And if you engage everyone, they are a really, really valuable process. But listen to what's happening on the front line, because those are the experts and they know what's happening. Wow, I'm running to time. This is so fast. Okay, now I'm going to use the word, and you will think the word has a negative consequence, but it doesn't have to. It is to understand the power of consequences. Consequences are what govern behavior. And if you don't have any consequences in your organization, people will just do the easiest thing. Don't expect them to do what's right. If you want people to do what's right, then there needs to be some cultural consequences in your organization, good or bad, that lead them to doing right things. And just make sure you do understand I'm talking about good things. A simple thank you for doing the right thing makes a difference and can culturally affect your organization. But I'll give you the 3 elements that consequences must have if they are to work. First of all, they must have probability. People need to know that the consequence is going to happen. Telling a salesman that they maybe get a bonus at Christmas is not going to incentivize a salesman. Guaranteeing a bonus at Christmas will incentivize. Knowing that if you do something wrong, you're definitely going to have a tough conversation with your boss because they're going to pick it up and want to explain why it happened that way is going to make a difference. So probability has to be high. Though severity sounds very negative, this talks to the size of the consequence. Giving, again, going back to a salesperson because it's easy and everybody gets it, telling somebody that they are likely or maybe going to get a 1% bonus at the end of the year isn't going to work it. A 25% bonus, that's got some severity, that's got some size behind it. And on the negative side, I might have a quiet word with you and say, well, can you not do that again? Is not going to be a consequence that's going to govern behavior. The 100% chance that you're going to be called into my office and we're going to have a serious conversation about performance, that will have consequences. And the other thing that a consequence must have is propinquity. So there you go. I won't leave you without propinquity being defined. Propinquity is a measure of closeness. So if people know that the consequence is going to be delivered immediately on the back of your action, that is going to have a much more powerful effect than people saying, yeah, I know I've done it wrong, but I only get a performance review once every 12 months, and that's 9 months away. So I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. That's not going to have the power of a consequence. Knowing that they're not going to wait 6 months to have the conversation with you, they're not even going to wait until the end of the day. You're going to be called in the minute that it happens. That's going to work. Giving a salesman saying, you're not going to have to wait 12 months for your bonus. You can have your first bonus at the end of the first quarter, your second bonus at the end of the second quarter. That is propinquity. It's bringing closeness of action and reaction. That's 8. How are we doing for time? Can I slow down? Do I need to speed up? We're almost bang on time. So the next one is, from a management point of view, much easier and much more simple. It's creating the right environment. And there's been study after study after study, to the point you've got to think, why is everybody still doing studies on this? The right climate impacts both health and performance, and that affects productivity. Health, let me define, I've never thought about this, but I'm going to randomly define health for you. Health is a condition of physical, mental, social, and psychological well-being. And if you produce a working environment which impacts on health, then it's going to affect performance, and that will affect productivity. But here's the thing, and I'm speaking now especially to all of us here who work from home on our own. And we've got 2 offices in our house. My wife works in the office next door. And sometimes I'll walk in and go, it's cold in here. And she'll go, yeah, it is. I've been meaning to put the radiator on for the last 2 hours. And you think, you've got to look after yourself. You know, if it's cold, put the heat on. If it's dark, turn the light on. Produce, you know, if it's stifling, open the window. If you're getting interrupted, do something. But air, water, nourishment. Oh, the other thing, my wife will die of starvation if I didn't say, have you eaten today? At 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She went, no, I haven't had time. You can't work if you're not fed. So looking after yourself, having the right sort of quality of chair, working in an environment which is conducive to productivity makes a difference. So think about these things in your own home. Think about them in your client's environment. Think about them when you go to an office, and think, what can we do to make it better? Finally, I'll go back to the point where somebody was very pleased, as I said, that they saved hours and hours of work because they produced a macro on Excel that nobody knew how to do. I will admit, I probably know how to use the bottom 2 or 3% of Excel, and maybe 50% of what Word can do, and maybe 60% of what PowerPoint can do. And every time I'm doing something, and I'm guilty of it, every time I work on Excel, I know I'm taking about twice as long to do something using Excel as somebody who knows how to use Excel would take. You multiply that out into an office environment where people don't know how to use stuff, and you will see waste all over the place. So train yourself, train your staff, continue to invest. There was a famous company in America who, when they set their business up, took all of their marketing budget and said, we're not going to spend it on marketing, we're going to spend all that marketing budget on staff training, and that will mean that we will develop our business by word of mouth. And they were sold to Amazon 5 years later for billions. Investing in your staff will never, ever hurt you. And this is a comment I have heard for 30 years. What happens if I train them and they leave? And the answer is always the same. What happens if you don't train them and they stay? So we should never be afraid of improving the productivity and the skill set of the people in our organization, because that will help it work. So I have lightning speed spread through 10 tips. I've taken 19 minutes. The trick now is to take these 10 tips and see which ones are the most appropriate in your own workplace, in your own office, in your own home, in your own client's environment, and apply what needs to be applied. If I was going to leave you with one of them, it's the culture one. Culture eats everything for breakfast. Culture is the way we do things around here. And if things aren't going the way that they should, it's because the culture says it's okay to do it that way. Whew. Okay, 10 in 20. I shall stop my share.